Okay, good afternoon, everybody, again to our fourth annual SAHRA Department of Historical Heritage Studies webinar for Heritage Month. And as I said, unofficial welcome to everybody before we start with our program. Just thank you for joining and participating and discussing. I think without further ado, I'm just going to go through some arrangements to make sure everything runs smoothly this afternoon, starting with just some rules. Please mute your microphones and your camera while you're not speaking, so that you don't disturb the speakers. The speakers will turn on their cameras and their microphones once they start to speak, as I introduce each of them. And then also we'll have a question and answer session for all of you to put your questions to our panel, our distinguished panel this afternoon. And then please just remember to put your cell phones on silent. It always happens to me that I have a ring while I'm speaking and on microphone. So I think let's get started, and perhaps I should put this to our colleague, long-running relationship, the CEO of SAHRA, Advocate Lungisa Malgas, to just bring us into the day, open it up for us, and give us the purpose of what we do here and what we've done in the past. So over to you, Advocate Malgas.
Thanks, Hannes. Thank you so much. Good afternoon to you, Hannes, to Prof. Karen Harris, Dr. Tammy Reynard, Ms. Della Harpe, Ms. Emile Coetsee, and many, many others that I may have missed out. All protocol observed. Thank you for having SAHRA as again your partner this year. I would like to first give those who are joining us for the first time to just understand what SAHRA does. SAHRA is a statutory body established in terms of the National Heritage Resources Act number 25 of 1999. As the national body responsible for the protection, management, and coordination of cultural heritage resources. According to NARA, which is our act, some of the responsibilities of the South African Heritage Resources Agency is to identify, this is now section 13, identify, record, and manage national significant heritage resources, and keep permanent records of such work, and to promote and encourage public understanding and enjoyment of the national estate and public interest and involvement in the identification, assessment, recording, and management of heritage resources. To promote education and training in fields related to the management of the national estate. That's in a nutshell what we do as the organization. But there are many, our mandate is really huge. And we are proud that as this institution, we are able to preserve and conserve our heritage for future generations. I am proud to announce, Hannes, that this year is our fourth annual heritage seminar in collaboration with the University of Pretoria to celebrate Heritage Month. The purpose of the seminar is to create awareness of the various opportunities in the heritage sector. The seminar aims to increase awareness of the daily operations within the heritage and cultural spaces. The ideal objective of the seminar would be to empower students who want to pursue careers in heritage management. The theme for this year is Heritage Evolution, Heritage and Tourism Technology. As we are all aware that now everybody is talking fourth industrial revolution, together with the COVID-19 pandemic, has compelled us to think outside of the box. The rapidly evolving digital technologies are affecting every major aspect of cultural heritage, its preservation, management, and enjoyment. And their application in this realm is ever more taken for granted. Nowadays, the heart of national and supranational policies worldwide is profoundly shifting the traditional approach to heritage based on the ideas of preservation, access, and education to a global economic and contemporaneously focused perspective rooted in the core of technological development. Technology and digitization in the realm of cultural heritage today involve social equity and are important topics of theoretical reflection focused on issues of innovation, the efficient application of digital means, on heritage and tourism economical aspects. The application and proliferation of technology in the cultural heritage realm has brought about and will bring substantial changes to the core of what we understand as cultural heritage. It is transforming our ideas on what heritage is, to whom it belongs, and how it should be preserved and shared. Among others, technology has strengthened the framing of heritage in global and economic contexts, altered the traditional understanding of access to heritage, influenced conservation and restitution issues, and profoundly transformed memory institutions worldwide. With this being said, I thank you all and hope that you will enjoy the seminar. Thanks, Hannes.
Thank you very much once again for your contribution and for introducing us into the topic so eloquently this afternoon. I think let us continue on with our just our official welcome this time from Professor Karen Harris from the Department of Historical Heritage and Studies. She's our head of department, head of the director of the university archives, and she will welcome us all officially to this event today. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Hannes, and a warm welcome to everybody from the Department of Historical and Heritage Studies at the University of Pretoria. And thank you to Advocate Malgas for that wonderful introduction. This is, as she correctly said, the fourth time that we are hosting this collaborative initiative. And I must say, I think she's covered everything in terms of what heritage means, and this particular theme that we've chosen, the heritage evolution, heritage and tourism technology. Talking about pride, I would like to say that I'm really very proud of our department and the involvement in this because of all the items. I think barring one, everybody has been or is a student at the University of Pretoria. It's wonderful to see that my honor students are involved in the program today with the campus tours. Michelle de la Harpe is a former graduate of our department and finalizing her master's as we speak. Ngobeni was also in our department and did honors some years back. Emile, who's now at Northwest University, is also from our department. And then of course, Hannes, yours truly, who's the program director, is also a graduate and a member of our staff at the Department of Historic and Heritage Studies. So we're very proud to collaborate and partner with SAHRA on this very prestigious occasion, particularly in this very important week for heritage. But as somebody said, Heritage Month is September, but we should be reserving and looking after our heritage the whole year through. So without further ado, I look very much forward to see and to hear, seeing what Campus Tours has to offer and to listening to what my colleagues from the department have to present today. And thank you to everybody, but most particularly to Mr. Hannes Engelbrecht and Kim Ngobeni for the collaboration and for putting this together. Thanks so much, Hannes. Back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Harris, for our welcoming. So I think let us continue on to our first presenters. Now, we often talk about the sort of academic uses of technology in theoretical terms and all of those things, but we thought this year, perhaps, since it's tourism tech and since UP Campus Tours has had to adapt towards a new dynamic, we thought we'd give you a little sample of what it is that they do in the form of a bit of a virtual tour. So without further ado, I'm going to say welcome to Michelle and Hannelize from this year's 2020 UP Campus Tours. And I'll let them talk a little bit more about their themes and give us a little bit of a tour. Thank you. Over to you, Hannelize and Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Engelbrecht. Good afternoon, everybody. If you could please go to the next slide, please. Like Mr. Engelbrecht said, my name is Hannelize, or Lizzie for short, and I would like to introduce you to my colleague, Michelle, who will be presenting with me today.
Hi.
We are members of a team of 9 honor students who run the business UP Campus Tours, which offers both natural and cultural tours across UP Campus. Next slide, please.
So, the Transvaal University College, or TUC, was established in 1903 in Johannesburg. TUC officially opened its doors in Central Pretoria on 10 February 1908 in the Victorian style house you see here. It named this after his wife, Rosa, and comes home is student. Rosa's geology and mathematics. You might not be familiar with this, but it is an interesting fact for me. From its previous name, the Transvaal University College, was used as a student hostel up until 1916, but in the late 1970s, it all came to a sudden end when the government wanted to demolish the house. Fortunately, UP alumni stepped in along with the University Council and funded the rebuilding of Rosa on the Hatfield campus, using much of the original materials, including the foundation stones and the press ceilings. So, in my opinion, and Rosa is one of the true birthplaces of UP. Next slide, please.
University of Pretoria has 7 campuses. The first one is the Hatfield campus, which is our main administrative campus and houses the following faculties: the humanities, the engineering, built environment, information technology, law, natural and agricultural sciences, theology, and the EMS faculties. Then we have the Gibbs campus, which is our business school in Johannesburg. The Hillcrest campus, our sports campus. Next slide, please. We then have the Groenkloof campus, which is near the Fountain Circle and houses the Faculty of Education. Our Prinshof campus, which is the medical campus at the Steve Biko Academic Hospital. Our Onderstepoort campus, the Veterinary Science Faculty near to the north of Pretoria. And lastly, our Mamelodi campus, where we have the Pre-University Academy. Next slide, please.
Home to UP museums, the Old Arts Building was the second building completed on the Hatfield campus in 1910. It originally housed the entire UCT except for chemistry and physics. It is also where the humanities faculty was founded and had its home in 1919. The Old Arts Building showcases a stained glass window of UP's first coat of arms, as well as a range of museum collections, including the World of Ceramics, the South African Ceramics Mapungubwe Clay Collection, and the Soon Korabik Collection. On 27 September 1968, the Old Arts Building was declared a national monument and a provincial heritage site, denoting to its great importance. The engineering tower, which was built on the west side of campus, had been constructed in such a way that it does not obstruct the view for the Old Arts Building from the street. Next slide, please. The first library was housed in the Old Arts Building, but soon there was no space to accommodate all UP's growing book collections, and funds was raised in 1937 to build a new library, which was named after Dr. Hans Marinsky, who made major financial contributions in its construction. The old Marinsky building, as it became known, was designed by Gerard Noordijk. He incorporated African symbols of Egyptian and Zimbabwean designs into the building, and curved walls of the majestic building symbolizes an open book, and the zigzag patterns represents water and fertility. The building was officially opened in 1939, and urban legend has it that Noordijk actually used the old Marinsky as a practice run to the building of the Voortrekker Monument. Although not commonly known, the old Marinsky was declared a national monument at the provincial heritage sites in 1990, excuse me. But today, the Old Marinsky Library houses a sculpture collection of Edward de Villa and Anton van Bou, as well as Mimi Coetsee and other rare library collections. Next slide, please.
The Mapungubwe Museum at UP opened its doors in 2002, and it exhibits archaeological artifacts from the 13th century. This museum collection consists of 174 declared heritage objects associated with the Iron Age settlements known as Mapungubwe Hill and Coetsee, and was gazetted by SAHRA on the 10th October 1997. The Mapungubwe ceramic collection comprises of almost 75% of the entire museum collection. The ceramics are made from fine or coarse clay, and some are burnished to glass. The ceramics date back to 1030 or 1220 AD at Coetsee, and back to 1220 to 1290 at Mapungubwe. Most of ceramics are distinguished by size, color, shape, type of clay used, the ingredients added, method of manufacture, and even reconstruction and distribution. The ceramics were formed in the shapes of beakers, round belly pots with necks, wide belly pots, shallow bowls, grinding wheels, and even clay figurines. The figurines were used for symbolic and educational purposes, and the shapes that were found were presumably that of animals and people. Next slide, please. The Mapungubwe gold collection consists of three broad classifications, namely gold beads, gold wire bracelets, and the gold foils. The gold foils were hammered into shape by folding them over wooden figurines. The foils were held in place by small gold nails hammered into the wooden figurines while the gold was being shaped. The famous gold rhino, as most of you may know it, was found on Mapungubwe Hill along with a gold scepter, a gold bull, a gold bovine, and a gold feline. The gold was apparently found in 3 separate graves of a young man, an old woman, and a middle-aged man. Not all of the gold parts that were found were complete, thus some objects are still incomplete today. If you wish to visit this wonderful Mapungubwe gold collection, the Javid UP Center is open to the public and free to visit on Heritage Day tomorrow. Oh, excuse me, on Friday. Next slide.
We would like to thank everyone for attending and giving us the opportunity to present, and for giving you a snippet of the way of UP heritage. If you have any further questions or would like to book a tour on our beautiful campus with us, to see more of our beautiful natural and cultural heritage, please contact us at upcampustours@gmail.com. And also, don't forget to look out for our social media pages, which is also seen on the screen. We look forward to hearing from you, and we will now like to hand over the presentation to the rest of our colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Hannelize and Michelle, for that interesting tour of our campus, albeit virtual. So I think that we're going to move on directly into our next distinguished guest speaker. And I would like to welcome Dr. Tammy Hodgkiss from the Origin Center at Wits to give us a little bit more information about the technologies employed at the Origin Center and how they look forward to heritage evolutions in the future. She's the curator of the Origin Center. And I think without further ado, over to you, Dr. Hodgkiss, and welcome.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much. It's really nice to be here. And I really enjoyed that campus tour. And I have lots of questions that I'll bring up afterwards. But yeah, so I'm going to talk to you just a little about Origin Center. So I'm not sure how many of you have been to Origin Center, so I thought I'd do a little bit of an intro as well. Just to show you what the center is and what we've been doing, especially in the last 2 years while we've been dealing with COVID, and we've had to move forward with a lot of technology within our field. Next slide, please. Cool, so that's our building. So we actually on Wits University campus, and a lot of people don't actually realize that we are a public museum. And then a lot of students on campus don't even know that we're a center that actually has a public museum. So we're trying to get our name out there and let people know about it as well. But we actually in the building with the archaeology department and the Rock Art Research Institute. And we are now officially under the science faculty at Wits University. Okay, we can change. So the museum itself deals with the origins of humanity and the origins of art. So there's, the story of archaeology and of human evolution, but the focus in the museum is actually on when hominins became human and the evidence of that, and then the amazing art traditions and cultures that we have in South Africa. Next slide, please. So we have some really nice replicas and things. And in the last year, we were able to get a lot of renovations done. It was quite a nice thing having the museum closed. And so we could get a lot of renovations done. We got funding from the university, but also from the National Institute for the Humanities and Social Sciences, DHHS, and the French Institute. And we were able to redo one of our sections in the museum, focusing on when we became human, so the Middle Stone Age, and a lot of that evidence is in South Africa. So some of the earliest art forms, engraved ochre and engraved ostrich eggshell. But part of these renovations that we had in the museum also allowed us to kind of embrace technology a little bit more, which is what I'll be talking about today. But we also had little things like we don't have push buttons we have quite a few films in the museum, and we don't use push buttons anymore. We have sensors now, so you don't have to touch them. And we got new lighting and new projectors and everything in the museum. So it was a blessing in disguise to have the museum closed. Next slide, please. And then another thing that was really important, and it was important with all museums, but I think especially in Africa with our colonial history, is that we need to change these narratives that we have in the museum. And some of the things in the museum, even though it was only developed in 2006, or they opened our Origin Center in 2006, but there were still some issues with the narrative. And so we were able to tackle these issues and look at how people and living cultures are presented in the museum and make sure they're not objectified. So that included getting names, putting names to the people that are pictured in the museum. Next slide. And then a large focus is on San rock art and San culture. So we have a lot of discussion and displays about the spirituality of the rock art, and engravings and painted rock art. And then we also have really nice exhibits that and contemporary art pieces that deal with these concepts. Next slide. So the museum also has some original pieces of rock art, and these were removed in the 1900s, or not by any of the archaeologists here now. But it's a really nice way of bringing sites to people. A lot of people can't get out to rock art sites. So we're lucky we do have these pieces, even though it's not optimal that they were actually removed from the sites. Next slide. Sorry, I'm going through them fast. Then we also have looking at the rock art of Bantu language speakers in South Africa. So there is some rock art, often related to initiation rites and rituals or protest art. The picture on the bottom left is from the Ngobeni, and related to local Hananwa communities that were fighting with the Afrikaner government at the time that was pushing them off their land. This was in the 1890s, so we have a big replica of that site. And then looking at these material culture items as well associated with ritual. Next slide. And then, as I mentioned, the contemporary artwork. So we have pieces by a range of South African artists that have kind of illustrated the history. So it's not just these objects and archaeology, it's actually these beautiful interpretations, sculptures, or different artworks made in different forms. So the picture you see on the top is a snake with the head of an eland. And it's what you find in the rock art as well, interpreting the spirituality that is shown in San rock art. Next slide. And so these art forms are different mediums. We have embroideries and aluminium wire sculptures, and it really is a beautiful way of visualizing the past. Next slide. But our focus, now that we fall under the science faculty, is a lot more on research and learning. So we've had to focus on developing educational content and hosting internships and postgrad students, and looking at this really nice mix of science and art within the museum and within Wits. And I think it's very easy to kind of focus just on one, and whereas that mixing of the two is really cool, or mixing of more is a really awesome space. So we hope to provide a platform for these outreach activities, and I think a lot of that is involving tech in heritage and how we can change how we view heritage and provide access to heritage. Next slide. So one of the things that we did offer in terms of being able to have conversations and bring new research to the public is online lectures and talks and seminars. So we offered it to schools as well, the seminar series. And so we used to have these really nice social events, and you have wine and you have everyone talking and lots of debate afterwards. And we've obviously had to change, and so everything like we are now, everything is online. But it still is a really nice way to connect with people, and has opened up a lot of avenues to connect with people globally that we wouldn't have been able to before. So we've still continued that. Next slide. Then we also have partnered with Google Arts and Culture. I know UP has a profile with them as well, which is awesome. And so we're finally going to be going live in October. And these really nice exhibits of the whole museum and our collections displayed in the museum. And they also did really nice 360s in all the spaces in the museum. So we've been able to use that, or will be able to use that for our virtual tours. Next slide. So keep an eye on the Google Arts and Culture platform. That's in October. And so we have offered virtual tours as well. It's also been for some groups that would come to Origin Center every year, school groups or university groups. We had one from Philadelphia that would usually come every year with their students, and they weren't able to. And so we could still offer them a little piece of the museum, and the 360 views that Google has done will really help that to actually bring it to life a little bit more. Next slide. Then we've also this year started the MISAM project. It's Mapping Africa's Endangered Archaeological Sites and Monuments. And this is quite an exciting project that's headed by Cambridge University. And there are eight institutions that are part of it, with Origin Centre Wits being one. And the point is to analyze heritage sites through using satellite and aerial images, regional maps, and archival databases. So it's a really nice way of digitizing this our heritage in Africa and being able to monitor it as well. And so the first phase of the project focuses on 8 countries in Africa, with our team at Origins focusing on Zimbabwe and Botswana. And it's headed by Faye Lander. And hopefully in the years going forward, there'll be more funding, and then can also spread to other Southern African countries. The next slide. Then in about 2018, actually, we had virtual reality goggles developed, and these are really cool, and it's a really nice way of putting someone in a rock art site or experiencing these really nice heritage areas. It's actually just a phone that goes into it, and then you have the Oculus, and you can turn all the way around and see sound and everything. And these are really great. But the problem with this, obviously, you can't reach people now in this COVID world that we live in. Everything has had to change a little bit, and we only had 2 of these viewers as well. Anyway, so we went to the next step this year. You can change the slide. So moved from virtual reality to augmented reality, and we now have an augmented reality or AR app called Origin Centre AR, and it's a free app. You can download it on Google Play or iOS, or Android or iOS, and yeah, it's a really fun way to explore the museum and to bring the museum to life. Next slide. So it's been a whole collaboration with a whole lot of people and different funders. And so this is the little earlant. It's a redrawing of an engraving, and that's the icon for the app. And once you go into the app, the image at the bottom, those are the sections that you can go into. The orange sections are ones that you have to be in the museum to be able to activate. And then the white ones are ones that you can explore from home. So it's really nice that we can still reach people all over that aren't actually at the museum. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. The 3 bottom ones are all dinosaurs, which we're actually launching the app on that section of the app on Friday. So it's quite fun to have these South African dinosaurs also featured in our app. Next slide. So this is our rock engraving archive, and this is actually where the idea stemmed from. So I'm not sure if you can see the image at the front. There's actually a giraffe on the boulder, and a part of these engravings is that they at certain times of day in a natural landscape you wouldn't see them at all, and only when the sun is down low in the sky would the engravings almost magically appear. And so we thought, you know, the going around the exhibition is this exploration, and so we added another element to that, to have the AR to actually bring the animals to life. Next slide. So these are some of the engravings. There's a rhino at the top and an eland and a beautiful geometric, and then a zebra. Next slide. And what you do with the app is you just open the app and press on rock engravings, and then you scan the at the bottom, the little redrawings in orange. You scan those, and then the animal comes up. I'm going to show you a video. I think next slide, Hannes. And if you can play the video. Cool. And we've got a giraffe, and they move around and make a noise, and they're very cute. The zebras are really noisy, and so it's really fun. It's a nice way to explore the museum, not just for kids, for adults too. And when you go around the rock engraving archive, it's really cool that you can collect them all, and you'll see all the animals floating around making a noise. Next slide, please. So I just want to show you some, oops. So just some photos of it. So this is kind of what it looks like, the different figures. That's my daughter patting an elephant. So it's really fun. You can take screenshots and share them. And so it's just a really nice way to interact with the art without actually touching it or damaging it in any way, but also bringing it into a nice techie element that that a lot of people want today. Cool. It's how we relate to the world. Cool. Next slide. And yeah, so I mentioned we're going to do the dinosaur. So this is, I think it's live on most platforms at the moment. So you're welcome to download the app Origin Center AR and see if you can find the dinosaurs. So all South African dinosaurs that roar and make a noise and terrorize your dogs. Next slide. And so some, as I said, some of these are available in the museum and some from home. And then the next section that we're going to be introducing in the next few months is looking at hominins. So focusing on different skulls, looking at different species in the family tree, yeah, just being able to rotate them and see them in all different angles, which will be quite cool. Next slide. And then, so for me, it's been really hard to, I love technology, but I also really like hands-on things. And so in my few years at Origins, I've always wanted to do hands-on tangible activities. And so I started running ochre workshops where you can make paint from stone and just explore how to make paint and rock art. And so we have moved this online a little bit. But quite tricky because you have to send the materials to people wherever they are in the country. But it's been lovely to do it, and you can still have an amazing workshop with people in a Zoom call. But it is obviously only accessible to people that can afford it because it's been to smaller groups as well. Next slide. And then the family activity days, so it's the same thing, and we haven't been able to really run these very much. Again, these are kind of down to earth, just get your hands dirty and touch everything. But next slide, we're going to be having our first activity actually on Friday, focusing on one of the temporary exhibitions that's in the museum and on fossils and rocks. And it's actually sold out already, which is great. So I think people are ready to come to museums and do things at museums. And so it's really nice for us to kind of, yeah, just to be able to have people back in the space and enjoying it with lots of sanitizer and masks. Cool. Change slide. Next slide. Almost done. Yeah, and then so we do have a temporary exhibition space, and so it's been really cool to have these exhibitions back, and we'll be running a whole lot in the next few months, and different exhibitions on art or archaeology as well. Next slide. Cool. So yeah, that's Origin Center, and I'd love to hear from you, or please follow us on social media. I'm definitely going to be following the campus tours as well. I think it's great. And thank you very much for inviting me today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hodgkiss, for that very interesting presentation. I think I shall follow and maybe see, hopefully, if we can visit soon. Thank you very much for that. So I think let us continue on. We actually have some time to spare, but let's leave it for some questions at the end. So I think let us continue on. If I can just perhaps introduce our next speaker and colleague from the UP Museums, Michelle de la Harpe, who's a archivist at the UP Museums. Her research, I know, is also in the field of tourism tech, and also a proud alumnus of our department. Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Hannes. It's actually amazing to see what's happening at the Origin Center. That's very exciting. That's very cool. But yes, so I'm from the UP Museums. I'm speaking on behalf of our Museum Interpretive Officer, Nicole. But yeah, I think, yeah, you can go to the next slide. Thanks. The UP campuses ladies actually gave a wonderful introduction to the collections we have at UP Museums, so I don't need to go into detail with that. And I know we're all kind of tired to hear about the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact that it had, but it's really important to note that that is a big reason why, for us, especially at UP Museums, we started to explore different avenues with new technologies because of the pandemic and because we had to, you know, as Einstein said, in the midst of every crisis lies great opportunity, and it really was the case at UP Museums as well. So UP Museums needed to be innovative because, you know, one of the main priorities of all museums should really be access to the cultural heritage stored in our collections. So access is the main priority, and ensuring that access continues even through a pandemic is very important, not just at UP Museums, but really all museums. But yeah, so UP Museums had to find new ways to bring our collections to visitors. Next slide, please. So yeah, the Google Arts and Culture is one of those projects. It's actually really cool to see that Origins will actually join us on Google Arts and Culture soon. So that's very exciting. We actually launched our collections in August of this year. And it's really exciting that these African collections will now be able to be viewed by everyone around the world. It's really great. So actually 5 of our exhibitions can now be viewed online through Google Arts and Culture. And this is really great because there's like over 700. Sorry, I see there's a type of 77 distinct books. It should be 700, not just 77 books. There's actually more than 700 of our objects and artworks on Google Arts now, and it's really great because we only need to upload the high quality images of these objects, and we also include the metadata around these objects, and then Google does the wonderful organizing and bringing into little organization files. And so, I mean, you can like search for really specific stuff like blue ceramics, or it'll show you all the objects in that category. And it also gives you a nice timeline. So it's really great to be able to use Google to just take our collections to a next level. And there's actually an app now. So you guys are welcome to download the Google Arts and Culture app to view not just our collection, but collections from all around the world, and soon Origin Center as well. So that's great. I actually have a quote here from our head of UP Museums, Dr. Tylee Now, on Google Arts and Culture project. And she said that it was a natural migration and mutual partnership to pivot the museum collections online, resulting from the harsh impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and unprecedented closure of museums worldwide. Moreover, it was a social response to bring artworks, archives, historical works, and other masterpieces, particularly of South African art, to the continent and the world. So on the next slide, please, you'll see a screenshot of how Google Arts and Culture looked with our collections on. So there you can see the 5 exhibitions that we have online, and I would invite you all to go have a look. It's really amazing to see it. But yes, next slide, please. The other thing that the UP Museums are busy with now is the Google Street View camera. So I believe the camera is coming to us in October, and it'll be used to not film only our gallery spaces, but also the sculpture route. So one of our curators, Lelani Nicolaisen, she developed this wonderful sculpture route on campus to showcase our sculptures, and it's a really great innovative project. But yeah, so the Google Street camera will be used to film this, and then also make it more accessible for people who are not able to come onto campus. Next slide, please. So yes, of course, social media, its importance cannot be denied. And I think it's traditionally the museums have only used social media to really announce, just announce here and there things that are happening. But the museums have actually really started to use it to have like art pieces of the week, or museum objects of the day and so forth. And it really gives users of Facebook and would-be visitors to the museum a great opportunity to actually interact with our curators and comment on what they think of museum objects and provide their interpretation. And I think it's come a long way from those old visitor books that you used to get at museums, where you just have like a small space for a comment or so and where you're from, to actually taking it on social media, providing that space for visitors to actually give their feedback. So I think that's a wonderful thing. Next slide, please. Yes, and then also the online puzzles was a great initiative, obviously when the pandemic started, and then so it's with a collaboration with the Java GP Art Center. So they've taken museum objects and artworks, and they transformed it into these great puzzles that you can complete online. And it's really fun, not just for children, but for adults as well. So that's really great. You don't always get that in the traditional museum setting where you have puzzles that you can build. And we've actually got a lot of positive feedback on these puzzles as well. Next slide, please. Yes, so online tours and presentations. As mentioned already, physical tours is not always possible in these times. So we've also had to take our tours online. And our museum interpretive officer, Nicole Hoffman, she actually gives tours now online, which used to only be physical tours. But it's great because it's not just a video, it's an hour-long presentation with the interactive question and answer session as well. And it really brings the collections to where the learners are and also other visitors. So Ngobeni forms part of the grade 6 curriculum. So they used to have like yearly tours when they dealt with Ngobeni in their school year. But now the kids can have online presentations in their classrooms, and it's really great. We've also had very positive feedback from both the teachers and learners with this, and also from the other visitors that had online tours, and it's really taken off. In 2019, Nicole only had to do 1 tour online, and that, so far this year she had to do 14 tours. So it's really gaining traction. Next slide, please. There's a few screenshots of Nicole's tours to learners and to other visitors. Thanks. Next slide. Yes, so the UP Museums also collaborated with the library's makerspace. And I think it's really important to note here that the impact that new technologies can have in a museum is not only for the benefit of visitors and the tourist experience, but really also for other key priorities of museums, such as preservation. So the UP Museums with the library's makerspace, they created 3D models of ivory objects. And they also created, in April, they scanned the Basotho Witness, which is a sculpture from by the South African sculptor Anton van Wouw. And so it's great because, for example, the ivory objects is not fit for long-term exhibition. So for the sake of preservation, these models can be used. And also, yes, so also the metadata that is added to these 3D sculptures. So we get all the extra information on the sculpture in the archives, and then we can use that to complement the 3D model, because, you know, object without its context is meaningless. So it's really great for preservation, but also to make objects also more accessible. And there's a lot of avenues that can still be explored there with 3D scanning. So with 3D scanning, they actually use laser lights to create like point clouds, which is a large set of data points of the surface of an object to actually get every little detail. And then you can use this for many projects. So I think it's really great for the preservation and digitization of museum objects. Yes, the next slide, please. Sorry, I've rushed a bit through the presentation here, but I think I just wanted to mention that not all museums in South Africa have the finances to have like holograms in the museum also, but there's always something that can be done to ensure greater access to South African heritage. And I think that that is the main point of museums after all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very interesting presentation, Michelle. Facebook and Twitter and the like is the new visitor books, I suppose, right? Some of my students might not even remember the old visitor books in museums, but we do. Perhaps let me just carry on, and we'll save some more time as we carry on with our next speaker again. We have a lot of alumni from our department. I have the privilege of been working with Ms. Ngobeni since our honors year together in the department, and now in her position in SAHRA and my position here at the department. So our next speaker, she's a heritage officer at the South African Heritage Resources Agency in the Heritage Protection Unit. We have been colleagues and we have collaborated for a very, very long time now. So over to you, Kim, from SAHRA. You're on for a presentation.
Thank you so much for that, Honors. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Kim Ngobeni, and I believe all protocol has been observed. Once again, thank you, Honors. And it's indeed an interesting topic, and it's good to see such evolution, such growth, and we keep on growing as time goes by. And with COVID-19, we've learned that we had to think outside of the box, and we keep growing in terms of tourism and digitization. And having said that, I'd like to start with my presentation from SAHRA. My name is Kim Ngobeni. I'm a heritage officer, for those of you who might not know me. Next slide. All right, who is SAHRA? I've decided to introduce what SAHRA is, their roles and responsibility, to put everything into context of what we do as the South African Heritage Resources Agency. Next slide. All right, the South African Heritage Resources Agency is a statutory organization that was established in terms of the National Heritage Resources Agency, which in short we call the NARA, as the national body responsible for the protection, the management, and the coordination of heritage resources. The NARA replaced the National Monuments Act of 25 of 1969. SAHRA is an agency of the Department of Arts and Culture, and we have other various agencies like your Freedom Park, your National Heritage Council, and many more. So we work together under the Department of Arts and Culture. Next slide, please. All right, the role of SAHRA is to coordinate the identification, recording, and management of South Africa's heritage resources, to promote and encourage public awareness about the national estate. The national estate refers to our heritage resources, to assist, advise, and provide professional expertise to any authority responsible for the management of the national estate at provincial or local level, to monitor and ensure compliance with national principle standards and policy for the heritage resources management, to introduce an integrated management system for all national resources around the country. Next slide. All right, when we come from heritage evolution, we are starting to notice that things are changing. We are developing. We're in the fourth industrial revolution. There are so many things to develop, so many things to come up with, and there's so much to do, but we are getting there. I think from where we come from, in terms of heritage, the heritage space, we have grown tremendously, and I think from here, we will only keep growing. Next slide. All right, our National Heritage Inventory. It's a quote from David Myers, which says inventories are ongoing records for identifying as well as describing heritage places for a range of purposes, including heritage management and protection. Next slide. All right, I termed it from paper to SAHRA. So as SAHRA, we were responsible for the national inventory, and we were using paperwork. Everything was done via paper. You can understand the files that we have, the records that we have. So in 2011, SAHRA was developed, That is the South African Heritage Resources Information System, and it was publicly launched in 2013. SAHRA is responsible for the compilation and maintenance of the inventory of the national estate, this being a database of places and objects which SAHRA or its predators have been involved, protected by publication in the Government Gazette. It is generally protected by the National Heritage Resources Act, which it considers of interest. So basically, SAHRIS is a system where we load information and the public has access to this information. So this is where we would have our permitting processes, where people can apply for permits online, and everything that is done, it's accessed online. So that is the means that we have in terms of moving from paper to digitization, having our public records on digitization, whereas it is accessible to the public, and all comments, everything regarding heritage resources is available there. So whenever there are different cases, they no longer have to send the emails, but they can go to SAHRIS and check on a particular case. We upload our site visit reports, we upload our comments, we upload our permit procedures, and everything is done on SAHRIS. Next slide, please. Okay, heritage and technology. Next slide. All right, another thing that we have managed to do is manage heritage from space. And next slide, please. As SAHRA, we do a lot of site visits, and due to the pandemic that happened and we're currently in, we couldn't go on site physically, but there are measures that we have taken into place to ensure that we still can manage our heritage resources. So the management of heritage has long been a discipline that requires boots on the ground to observe and notify SAHRA of factors placing a heritage resource at risk. Using remote sensing, SAHRA can continue to monitor heritage resources and the risks that may have the potential to affect them. Multiple freely available options are open for the use by entities such as SAHRA to monitor and track events that may place SAHRA resources, heritage resources at risk. Next slide. All right, our social engagement. Next slide. As some of my colleagues have presented, in terms of technology and digitization, we have gone to social media, and it's a means that we've been using lately to engage with the communities and also to encourage the youth to be aware of what's happening, because in all honesty, most of the people using social media are the youth. So once they get on social media, they get to see what agencies like SAHRA, the National Heritage Council, the Freedom Park, and so forth, what they're doing. They get interested in it and they get to interact, and they see our live publications. So recently, this whole week, we've had a heritage seminar. It's been online. We've used YouTube, Facebook, and we're getting engagement in terms of social media. So it's another platform that we're using to increase awareness of our heritage resources. And we know that the youth is aware of this social platforms. So they get to engage us, and we upload daily information of what's happening, what's new, what's latest, what's live, and everything. We get to upload it on our platform, social media platforms. So currently we have our Facebook page, we have LinkedIn, we have Twitter, and our YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel is gaining great momentum and people are reacting to it. We are growing and increasing our publications daily to get more interactions. Next slide, please. All right, Project Know Your Heritage. Next slide. That is our latest project that has been established by the South African Know Your Heritage. Is a pilot project conceptualized and produced by the South African Heritage Resources Agency Media Productions. The aim of this project is to exhibit our nationally protected heritage resources in a much more tangible setting, allowing viewers to connect with the content, spaces, objects, and people. An integral part of SAHRA's mandate is to promote and educate the nation on our nationally protected heritage resources, especially Grade 1 sites. Those are our nationally protected heritage sites. The aim is to execute a nationwide site documenting project, which entails capturing our national heritage sites through content creation, photography, and the creation of short documentaries that will be uploaded on our website and our YouTube channel for public access. Next page. Okay, Project Know Your Heritage seeks to take the viewer on a journey, highlighting the significance behind the places and objects that have been given national heritage status, as well as the processes in place to protect them. This project encourages every person to reflect and appreciate how far we come as a nation, and how through the guidance of our legislation, we are able to transform our heritage landscape to celebrate and preserve everyone's heritage for generations to come. As South Africans, we should all feel proud of where we come from. This project will hopefully play a small part in the lives of getting to know your heritage. Next slide. So as part of Project Know Your Heritage, there are some episodes that have been done already. There are more to come, but just to name a few that has been done, we have done Freedom Park, we have done Constitution Hill, we have done West Coast Fossil Park, we have done the Walter Sisulu Square, we have done the Voortrekker Monument, we have done the Mabungubwe World Heritage Site, we have done the South African Astronomical Observatory, and we have done Lily's Farm. So basically, these are episodes that we go to site, we document it, and we put it on our YouTube page and our website so that people can have access to such information, so that they can know why we are preserving this heritage site. What is the importance of preserving this heritage site? It also forms part of public knowledge and education, because we don't just send our knowledge through webinars, but these people in their own times, they can go through the website and check this heritage site. And it creates an interest in terms of social media and creating awareness of what SAHRA is. Next slide. All right, I have included a documentary of Constitution Hill, so you are aware of what's happening, and it's one of the many. There are many more to come. Thanks, Honest.
My name is David Maziba. I work here as the collections and the exhibitions coordinator. My job entails the upgrade and maintenance of the permanent exhibitions, which includes all the AVs, all the panels, the reading panels. And I also make sure that our archives are actually taken care of. Our collection that side is taken care of, including the objects and paper-based material. The Fort Prison came as a result of Johannesburg being discovered as a mining village after gold was found here in a farm called Lungisa in 1886 by an Australian prospector by the name George Harrison. That's when most people started flocking into Johannesburg area. So some few years later, President Paul Kruger saw a need for a prison just to maintain law and order in the growing mining village of Johannesburg. So the fort was built as a result in 1893 and purposely placed on top of the hill just to supervise everything that was taking place in the mines. 3 years later, it was turned into a military fort because President Paul Kruger believed that the 8 lenders were actually coming for his regime. 8 lenders, he meant like foreigners, mostly the British people. When the war started, the South African War, which was commonly known as the Anglo-Boer War, it started in 1899. A year later, during that war in the 1900s, President Paul Kruger decided to give up the fort to the British. And then the British took occupation of the fort, and they also incarcerated some of the Boer soldiers in their own prison. The war was over in 1902 when the peace treaty of Vereeniging was signed at Melrose House in Pretoria, ending the war. That's when this whole place was reverted to function as a prison again, up until it was closed in 1983. And all the inmates that were here were transferred to Deep Kloof Prison in Soweto, which is now commonly known as Sun City. There were some black prisoners who were kept in another section of the fort because there was no prison for the non-white males. And in 1902, that's when they built, they called it the Natives Prison, which is now called number 4. It's section 4 and 5 of the prison. So it was built in 1902. That's where all the non-whites were kept. When I say non-whites, I'm referring to coloreds, Asians, Africans. They were all declared as non-whites. And racial lines were strictly kept inside the prison in a way that the guards who would guard the non-white prisoners would also be the non-white guards. Even in terms of food, they would be given different diets in terms of according to those racial lines. It has a section which is called the isolation cells. That's where mainly political prisoners were put. And they would be there under the law called detention without trial. This means you don't know why you're being detained, for how long, and the people outside don't even have knowledge of your whereabouts. So you are solely at the mercy of the prison authorities. So some people were kept there for more than a year on a diet of rice water, starch that comes out of a boiled rice, that whitish water, just to keep them alive. And you are not being given anything. 23 hours inside there, no books, no nothing to read. Chances of going insane were very, very high. And if you had gone insane, you'd be taken on another one, which has a steel bar, like a butler pro. And they would put you inside that one, keep the door open and just lock the steel bar, and then they would hose you, spray with cold water. And if maybe the weather was like this, then the following morning, chances of survival would be very slim. The first group of women who arrived here were called Amawasha. So those are the women who actually left the homelands, because usually it would be the male who would leave the homelands coming to find employment in Johannesburg. So the women would be left with the whole burden of having to look after the kids, look after the elderly, and see if the cattle are well taken care of. So some of the women left those chores and decided to come and work in Johannesburg. So they were called amawasha. These are the women who used to do washing for the white people in their neighborhoods. So the women's prison was actually built in 1910. So President Paul Kruger saw that there were women in the city, so he also decided to extend the prison by putting up a women's section in 1910. In the women's section, both blacks and whites were kept in the same prison, but it was in separate sections. The reason why we have the court here is to say the atrocities of the past must never repeat themselves. The court is here to serve as a constant reminder to say whatever cruelty that was done to people during apartheid, it doesn't prevail at this day and age.
Thank you, Hannes, for that. And that is just a brief presentation of what we've been doing as SAHRA. And if you're more interested to watch the episodes, you can view us on our YouTube channel, South African Heritage Resources Agency, and you can watch all the episodes in the comfort of your own home at your own time. And once again, thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Kim, for that very interesting presentation. I must admit, I did stumble on some of these Know Your Heritage. I'm one of your YouTube followers, but I did stumble on some of them and they look really great. I think let us continue on with our next speaker. So as an introduction, perhaps let me introduce Mr. Emile Coetsee, who is currently a lecturer at Department of History at NWU. He obtained quite a few degrees with us, and if I'm not mistaken, is also an alumni of UP campus tours, like myself and the others. Yeah, he will be speaking to us about his work with RoadTrip SA in an industrial, a more industry setting. So without further ado, over to you, Emile.
Thank you very much, Hannes. And I hope it's okay if I keep my camera off, just to make sure that my bandwidth keeps up with us. I want to thank yourself and the Department of Historical and Heritage Studies at University of Pretoria, my alma mater, for this invitation and the opportunity to speak a little bit about my community engagement project here at the Northwest University called RoadTrip SA. In November of 2017, one of the fellow tour guides, which I had the pleasure of taking tours with in the early 2010s, Mr. Diederik van der Hof, called me and said he's got an idea for a smartphone app, and he was wondering if I might be interested in also being part of that entire enterprise. And after hearing the entire story and meeting the IT specialist, Mr. Garth Smithard, I then decided to join up with the company that owns and created the RoadTrip SA app called Value Apps, and organizing with my employer, the Northwest University, the opportunity to be part of this enterprise, allowing me time to seek and look for places of interest or POIs for the app to expand and grow on a weekly basis. Even this has now been 4 years, and this is a story of 4 years in the making. And it's my pleasure to be able to present what is already available, which can already be downloaded by you and by anyone around the world to be able to experience and find and see what a specific place of interest is all about with this app called RoadTrip SA. Next slide, please, Hannes. Before I show you how the entire app looks like, just want to explain how our thinking worked as trained tourist guides and also those of us that are studying into the humanities. And I mean, just imagine if you flew down today to Cape Town, or you maybe stay in Cape Town, and you're discovering the city between that remarkable mountain and that pristine ocean. There's a lot in between those two lands, those two places on the map in the city of Cape Town. And you're walking in the street scene, and you are literally able to come into focus. You can actually see heritage all around you. From a statue in front to a museum to the left, the historical building on the company gardens across the street as you have to cross it. It is not always possible to stand in front of these heritage items and know exactly what the entire story is of the museum and its opening hours, what the statue is all about, who's it honoring, and how does that fit into South Africa's long history, and how to even find the other places of heritage in this immediate vicinity. Well, the app can help with that, and we'll see now. Next slide, please. It's not only in cities. If you take a long drive through our landscape and you decide to stop at the nearest town and get out and stretch your legs, as we should do after every 2 hours of driving, you might be in a rural town like this, in the town square, and as you've already nicely climbed out and stretched your limbs, you are also in touch with the immediate local heritage sites, or POIs, places of interest. There's a memorial in the middle and a historical building to the left. Very interesting looking corner pub hotel. And one can, of course, ask one of the local residents what everything is. But if you have the app, that might not even be necessary. Next slide, please. Or you drive on the road, and suddenly right next to you, you see this pinnacle standing outside next to the road. A monument, and as you turn off the road to see what it's all about, you have this granite pinnacle with lots of names engraved on the panels, and very little other information. And how would one actually know what that monument is all about? Or even in a town, when you see a beautiful house like that, which its architecture is absolutely so stunning that it's prickling your curiosity. And you look at it and you're wondering yourself, why does it have a sundial or a Juliet balcony? What is the story behind this piece of heritage that I can see already? Where to ask? Maybe the app can help. Let's have a look. Next slide, please. And heritage is all over. It's not always easy to track. For example, you might even find heritage in the middle of a shopping mall, or few remnants from a battlefield in the field. And even if you are lucky to have seen it before, how would one be able to explain to a friend how to find it as well? Surely there must be a resource that can help not only the tourist guide, but the general public, and be able to not only locate the place of interest, but also find out what it's all about, to make that experience a great deal more magical when a person actually visits it. RoadTrip SA app can help. And we'll see exactly how the app looks like in a few minutes. Or you might be traveling overseas and find a memorial of the name South Africa on it. We in South Africa, well, we South Africans have several memorials linked to us across the world, and where they are and where they are located is easy to find on this app. Or you might be traveling through a town and you hear from one of the local historians the folklore about a specific place that might not even have a brown colored road sign indicating where it's located. So this app, RoadTrip SA, will be able to show exactly how to find a fascinating place. For example, the one on the right-hand side, the letter clipper outside Gurries in the Northern Cape, without any issue whatsoever. Next slide, please, Hannes. And as the tourist students and tourism students and heritage students will be able to tell us, there are no target markets when it comes to tourists, each one of its own interest. And for example, in South Africa, there is, even groups of people that will travel from one town to the next to look at places of worship, because that's what is fascinating to them. And to have the entire story about what this place of worship, for example, means, or what that battlefield means, or even the last resting place of a very important South African, all of those interesting places are linked onto the app. Next slide, please, Hannes. So with all of the heritage across our country, in our region of Southern Africa, even with heritage across the South African heritage found in other parts of the world, I mean, what resources do you actually have to be able to find out the whole story behind something that's literally catching your fascination to such a regard that you cannot ignore it? You can carry with you several guidebooks. You can pay for a local guide or even find a local historian if you're lucky. But all of that will be not necessary while having the RoadTrip SA app on your phone. Next slide, please, Hannes. It's not just us in South Africa that we can imagine how our experiences are as we travel through the country. Even when this lockdown is done and the pandemic is something a part of history, when our tourists come back, they are also already working so independently that they are using apps from the minute they lock their front door to take their taxi to the airport. They're booking their flights and checking into their flights by using an app, renting cars by using an app, getting their accommodation in order using an app. Surely they will also be able and more than willing to use an app that will show them all the interesting places to stop within their immediate vicinity as they travel through our remarkable and beautiful country. So this app is not only useful for them, but it's also useful, Hannes, the next slide, please, for tourist guides and tourist guides being trained for scholars and for students. And I've even been able to accommodate the app in some of my learning plans while teaching undergrad and even postgraduate history. So it's not just for the general public. It can also be used by different groupings of interested people. So how do we get the app before I show how the app looks like? Hannes, the next slide, please. You can download it from Google Play if you have an Android device, or you can download it from App Store if you've got an Apple device. Just look out for that logo, or you can also download it from the website roadtrip.rsa.co.za. So that is the best way to obtain this app. And now finally, let's have a look how it looks like. Hannes, the next slide, please. Right, as soon as you've downloaded it and it's now connected to the satellite, you will find the list option of all the different categories of South Africa's places of interest listed. From things to see are usually, your monuments, your graves, your interesting buildings, so something that you can witness, that you can view. Things to do is all of your museums and art galleries, botanical gardens, anything that there is a definite activity connected to it. If you are fascinated by mysteries, there are several places of South African mysteries loaded onto the app. Shipwrecks, even the religious places of interest, national parks, and we have focused exactly on the Kruger National Parks, heritage sites, as well as the Kalahari Transfrontier Park, just to make it so much easier finding these places of interest that all amaze and astonish. And then the top category, my favorite one, is South Africa's heritage across the world. And let's say, we approach it by saying that South Africa's heritage outside of Southern Africa, if one travels to the UK, how to find the statues about South African statesmen, or if someone travels to Taiwan to find the SAL Helderberg Memorial in Taiwan, it is literally on this app able to find it without asking directions whatsoever. Next slide, please, Hannes. So while creating this presentation, I said to myself, right, if I am now sitting at the University of Pretoria and I chose the category things to see, and these will the category will show to me immediately all the places that are in my closest proximity, which I can go and visit. And then looking at the pictures or the description and the location within the description, what I'm looking at, I can then see what is precisely the place of interest that's capturing my fancy. Next slide, Hannes. And then after making my selection, every listing has got a photo, it's got its title, it's got its precise location on the GPS, which is juxtaposed upon Google Maps, and therefore it can be used to indicate to you the directions to get to the place of interest which you would like to see. And below then bullet point, very short and sweet, nothing out of the ordinary text that is written to explain what is the place of interest that you're looking at, importance, and how it fits into maybe the history of South Africa, and so that the person walks away from the place of interest with a deeper understanding, or a better understanding rather, of the place of interest that they have viewed. Next slide, Hannes. Then you also have the map function. So please forgive me, I'm sitting in the so when I was doing my presentation, I took the immediate map function of where I'm sitting at the Northwest University's Mafeking campus. And then you will see all of the little red and blue and purple dots on the screen, indicating to you the precise location on the map of where that place of interest is. And then the person can select which one they would like to see by ticking on every one of those points. Or you don't necessarily have to use this function of looking at the town itself. There's also a broader function one can use. Hannes, the next slide, please. So where I'm sitting at the moment, in 100-kilometer proximity, these are other places of interest that I can go and have a look at, from important graves, historical buildings, monuments, museums, all of that, from where I'm sitting in Mafeking, with all of the towns and areas in 100 kilometers proximity. And it will be precisely for every subscriber, wherever they are in South Africa or within Southern Africa, because we've also included our neighboring states, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Eswatini, Lesotho, even Mozambique and Zambia, with their places of interest, because South Africans love to travel. They cross over the boundary frequently, or the borders frequently, and they will be able to find all the places of interest while visiting the neighboring country as well. So it's not just South Africa, it's our neighboring states as well. And then as you saw on the list function, there's a variety of other South African related heritage places in countries across the world. Next slide, please, Hannes. So if I was now touring through this far part of Northwest, and I've looked at all the different spots that is on the app, and I press on the one that looked to me to be quite interesting, then I will be able to have on the side of this map function, the photo, the title, the location, as well as the explanation of what is exactly at that spot that I would see. And therefore, I can then plan my trip from Mafeking outwards and see the places that is fascinating to me. Next slide, Hannes. And if the map function is not something that is to someone's liking, then the list function is always there, the default to go to function to go. And as a tourist or as a South African sitting on their couch trying to plan exactly what they would like to go and see, they can also make use of the search option to find exactly the location of a place of interest that they've maybe heard about or would like to go and see themselves. Or if they want to let's say someone's planning a trip from Pretoria to Bloemfontein, and he would like to go and see what is in Bloemfontein, but ticking this, or by clicking the specific category and then searching Bloemfontein, all of the things to see or things to do, or all of the religious places of interest or South African mystery places in Bloemfontein or close to it, will then be able to be used by the subscriber. So one can use this resource in a variety of ways to make sure that every single trip is as enriched as it can be, without carrying a huge library of guidebooks with you in the car. You have everything on your smartphone, and one can plan from long trips to even a short day trip by checking what will be able to be seen. Or maybe if someone goes on a trip and he saw something next to the road or in a town, and it just doesn't want to release him, the curiosity is getting the better of the person, then this app is definitely the go-to resource to be able to find not only the location, but the meaning of it as well. Next slide, Hannes. So we in RoadTrip SA had to ask several questions, like, for example, this app needs to be obviously self-sustainable, but also it's also there to make a profit. So how do we do it? Do we monetize it or not monetize it? So we've decided to go to monetize financial model with the possibility, of course, of selling advert space in the near future, because it's been our experience while taking large groups or even small groups of tourists in the last decade or so that this app is also going to be a resource for the long list of South African guest houses and hotels to make sure that they are on the app, so that any tourist that's using the app to find their way around South Africa would see that, aha, this place of interest is very close to my guest house because this guest house has paid for their listing on the app itself. And therefore, this app will succeed in its original main goal of getting more tourists into a different variety of South African places of interest, or to those places of interest, wherever those tourists might be traveling through our country. But the key is, when it comes to an app, is downloads, and more downloads. Because of those, with those downloads increasing and the subscribers also therefore increasing, that is when you know you have that successful app. And if it's monetized, the app will later self-sustain itself, because obviously the host platforms like Google Play and App Store, they also need to take their part. And anything else that remains goes to the company that owns the app. So with everything thought out together, we decided we go the monetizing financial model with the possibility of selling advert space, and then also making it possible for guest houses or any tourism related business to buy their space on the app as well. But we are hunting on a weekly basis, downloads, and just more downloads. So please do feel free to download the app, show everyone that you see it, so they can also make use of this resource that is literally expanding on a weekly basis with brand new places of interest around South Africa, loaded onto its database, fully refined to be able to be used not just by this generation, but for many others to come. Next slide, please, Hannes. Of course, the main thing is to getting the word out of there. So our approach has been the three main pillars for marketing, as the previous presenters have also shown them the impact that social media can have. So RoadTrip SA has got its Facebook page, its Instagram page, its LinkedIn page. So please feel more than welcome. You're heartily welcome to like those, to like RoadTrip SA Facebook's page, and we share on a daily basis a new place of interest on our Facebook pages, which is of course linked to our Instagram and LinkedIn pages. That will help not only by creating more curiosity and more interest, but for those who already have interest and curiosity, to see something new that they might not have seen, that is linked within our massive South African list of places of interest. Then we've also partnered up with a company that specializes in e-magazines, as well as the print. They print the e-magazine as well, and they have a specific magazine called the RoadTrip magazine. And because our names and our goals were so similar, we partnered up with them, and one can download the RoadTrip e-magazine on a monthly basis, free of charge. And the RoadTrip e-magazine is one of our partners, or is one of our partners, to make sure that we keep to this three pillars of marketing scheme that or structure that we have. Recently into broadcast media, entering into podcasting and short video clips. So the marketing for RoadTrip SA now, after 4 years, is nicely fastened onto these three pillars, and we are looking forward to what will be the reality, and what will be our expanding reality in the future. And as next slide, please. And I think I've also kind of quite rushed through the presentation, I beg your pardon, but that is the story of RoadTrip SA in a nutshell. And therefore, I would like to again thank the University of Pretoria and SAHRA for this opportunity. And I hope for you that are interested in the app, that it brings you a lot of joy in all of your odysseys and journeys through South Africa, our neighboring states, and anywhere across the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that very, very interesting presentation, Emile. That's very important relationship I try to communicate to my students between managing heritage and telling our stories, but also then the business behind that aspect of heritage and tourism management. We seem to be just in time for some questions and answers. Perhaps we can go to the floor and see if we have some questions. And perhaps I should read them out, or if you would like to ask the question yourself to any of the speakers, feel free to also put up your hand and I will give you the floor. So let's just have a quick look here. Okay, first one, there's 2 RoadTrip apps on Apple Store, bro, from the same level, 1 free, 1 paid for. What is the difference, and can free one affect your marketing efforts? So Emile, perhaps you want to take that question, the difference between the free version and the paid for version on the app.
Certainly. Yeah, the paid version is the full app. That's over 2,700 places of interest already. So it's a once-off payment of 149 Rand, and then one will have the app forevermore. There's no cost following that. But then we decided to make a smaller version with only about 20% of all the listings on the free app, to still make sure that that those that would like to still explore the immediate heritage in their proximity, that they would be able to do so with the free version. But it's really a very small amount of the places of interest on that app. It comes from the same developer, and then with the free version, then it will later be stocked with advert space, because it's over 9,382 downloads from this week, the free version. So there's interest in both of them, the paid and the free version. Of course, we recommend the paid version because that it's got the entire 2,700 plus places of interest on it, and it's a once-off payment, and then one will have it forever.
Okay, thanks, Emile. I see there's a related question about in-app purchases rather. Would that not be a better solution? I think I recalled you mentioning something like that. I'm not sure if it was in the presentation.
I'm sorry, Hannes, did you ask?
Yeah, I was just asking, there's a question there in terms of branding. Would it not be better to have one app but have in-app purchases?
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Today, or if you addressed it today, or my conversation with you earlier.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you broke up a little bit there. I unfortunately can't give a definite answer there. I leave that more to the owner and the IT specialist with that. My role with RoadTrip was to find all the places of interest in every nook and cranny around the country, on all the different roads and so on. So but I do believe that the free version might just be a temporary option for the foreseeable future. But to receive the complete experience to have that app always as a resource, the monetized complete app is highly recommended. But I always usually leave the business decisions to the owner for them to decide.
Okay, thanks for that, Emile. I think I saw a hand up. It's gone again now. Matikwe, there we go. Matikwe, if you want to ask a question on, you are welcome to it.
Johannes, it is such a museum adapting to the fourth industrial revolution. At least they are trained, and this era of artificial intelligence. How and to what degree is the use of technology impacting on the workforce in the heritage sector?
Sorry, Matikwe, I think you broke up there. Well, at least at my side, it might have been me. Can you just maybe repeat the question? Sorry about that.
My question, in this era of artificial intelligence, how and to what degree is the use of technology impacting on the workforce in the heritage, the impact of tele in the heritage sector?
Okay, I think I got the question this time around. Yes, well, I mean, I suppose any of the speakers who would like to talk about the impacts, I mean, a lot of what we have been talking about is some impact, but particularly that idea of artificial intelligence and how that impacts workers in the heritage sector. I mean, especially if we're working with tangible objects, perhaps I should turn it to the experts if they have anything to add to that. Perhaps Michelle, if you have something to add to it, de la Harpe, Michelle, or anybody else.
Yes, I think I would like to add that you know, virtual reality and augmented reality, it can't replace the real experience, and I think us in the heritage sector should really focus on using technology to complement our work, not take it over. I saw with our virtual tours that we had some feedback we got that was the tour was amazing, but they would still like to come see the objects in person. So I think the real experience is still the winner at the end of the day. So I think practically speaking, at least for a foreseeable future, it shouldn't have too much of an impact on the workforce, I think.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, I've also sort of, if you consider that idea, I often find that I prefer AR rather than VR.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matikwe. Anybody else wants to add onto that? I see we have another, perhaps a last one from Damien. Damien, the floor is yours.
Hi, yes, thank you very much, Hannes. So I think maybe just elaborating on that last question. So I'm currently also an alumni from UP, but in the Industrial Engineering Department, currently pursuing a master's in somewhat of, not necessarily similar to what's been done in the app, but more so to be able to figure out a way of how can you provide a routing option for someone who's driving from, let's say, Joburg to Cape Town and wants to go across multiple mountain passes. So specifically the points of interest we are after are mountain passes. How can you optimize the route, but at the same time, maximize exposure to those points of interest? So extending on the question of AI and its use in the tourism industry, I think one of the things the tourism industry has got going for it is that tangible aspect as to where the places are. Yes, you can augment them, which definitely increases their access. And when we're talking about sharing information such as history, I think that is hugely beneficial in democratizing it. But the biggest thing, at least, that I can find as a hindrance, at least, is to be able to just be aware of what is out there. So it's this very fine layer where I don't foresee that AI would have any further impact other than maybe collating information and presenting it to an end user. but more so from the standpoint that we should be leveraging the technologies we have to make people aware of what is currently out there. Then the information, the history, the knowledge, in whatever way or form we want to present that, whether that's online lectures, whether that's in-person interviews, whether that's video formats, that is something that I feel would also be more of a personal preference to the end user. So the individual who would like to, I mean, I would much prefer to go and actually see it in person and to, if I'm allowed to, obviously touch it and interact with it. But above all, I need to be able to access it, know how it's there, and also do it in the most convenient way possible. So I don't know, that's just my 2 cents worth in that.
Thanks for that, Damien. I completely agree. I've always told that to my students as well. Similar points. Augmenting reality, not replacing it, I think is the ultimate thing with tourism and heritage experiences. I think let us leave some space and we move to Ms. Mamakumering Nkasi Liswana from the Heritage Resources Agency, South African Heritage Resources Agency, the executive, to just let us out in a vote of thanks and do a little bit of a closing for us. And then after that, if I could maybe just ask some of you to just, those who want to participate, we are going to try a new feature on Zoom, and we're going to try and take a group photograph just afterwards for those who want to stay after that. Ms. Mamakumering, over to you if you are here. I think I saw her coming in.
I am here, Hannes. Good afternoon, colleagues, our partners in Heritage Resources Management. It has been a very successful, I think, event, seminar. I can't believe it is almost, this is a third one. And each year, the themes that are picked are intriguing and very much engaging. So I would like to thank the organizers. Hannes and Kim within SAHRA are in the forefront of making sure that we are on top of our game as far as this is concerned. But formally, I would really like to thank our partners, University of Pretoria. This has been a long-going partnership, and it's getting bigger and bigger if you compare the other years. So let's keep growing. We would like also to thank the presenters this afternoon. It wouldn't have been successful without you agreeing to do these presentations. And I hope through your participation and presenting here, you get the level of access to the South African public and elsewhere in the world as you share your content with us, our heritage. So thank you so much. I would like to thank, I think, my CEO and Prof Harris for their opening and being available. It is very undating in terms of the schedules that people keep. So when we do have them, we thank them for their participation. Let's in the future try and involve more. I think let's see next year if we can get more universities in. That will be very much interesting. The students in heritage, we need you, so please continue to participate. Thank you for availing yourselves this afternoon. And Hannes and Kim, thank you so much for making sure that today comes to evolution. Let me not go overboard. So thank you, everyone. We really, really valued your input this afternoon. It was successful, so thank you. Thanks.
I'm going to say thank you very much to everybody for a final goodbye this afternoon. We hope to see all of you again. Kim, anything from you? Feel free to say something, but otherwise, thank you all. Goodbye. And we hope to engage with you in the future.
Yes, yes.
Cool. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
so much.